Okay, hello everybody. It's a special Memorial Day, recording with one of my old players from back in high school when I used to coach high school ball. Her name is Andrea Howard. She is now going to be a returning senior over at the University of New Mexico. Pretty awesome person, player, and teammate. And I'm excited for you all to hear from her and kind of get a glimpse of what it's like to be a champion at that level. And so, Andrea, thanks so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So I start all of my interviews, whether you are a coach, a player, asking you to talk about yourself. And I do that for a specific reason. I do it because as women, we tend to hide ourselves and not fully be confident in who we are, what we've done. And we've put in so much work in this world. And sometimes it's kind of shunned down a little bit, or again, we're scared to say it because maybe we're cocky or what people feel like you may feel like you're cocky or whatever, but that's not the case. And I want people to know that women are out there doing badass things and are powerful women in the world. And so my question to you is, give us a little bit of some of your accomplishments, some of your accolades, things that you've done in this world, to be where you are now.
Cool. Yeah. So again, my name is Andrea Howard. I play for the University of New Mexico. I also play for the Italian national Olympic team. That has been really cool. We can talk about that later on.
Yeah.
But I'm majoring in biology and psychology at UNM. I have a 4.08 cumulative GPA. As in terms of, playing accolades, in high school, I was Gatorade Player of the Year. I was Metro Player of the Year, All State, all that kind of good stuff. For UNM, I've been named All Mountain West a couple of times. I am an academic All-American. I'm, just a bunch of different academic accolades too. But yeah, so I guess it's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love everything that you're saying so far. And I mean, you're doing great things. So again, thanks for being a part of this process. And so, my business is all about developing champion athletes or developing high school athletes who are champion athletes in this world. And we try to focus a lot on purpose. We try to focus a lot on branding, focus a lot on character, leadership, and brand basically. So some of the things that we do is really built on authenticity and who they are and why they do what they do, why they want to do what they do, why they commit to certain things and push through when things get hard. And so just as you were preparing for your journey to go from high school to college, maybe tell us a little bit about the process from deciding that you're going to go to University of New Mexico, your whole recruiting process. How was that? What was that like? What are some things that you did? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I was really blessed in my recruiting process because I played for a club team where the head coach was the father of UNM's, of UNM's head coach, pretty much. So I was able to get in contact with UNM through that club team. Rick Beach was my coach, and then Erica Beach at the time was UNM head coach. So it was kind of a blessing for me because I knew exactly where I wanted to go, and I knew I wanted to go to UNM ever since I was little, just because I want to play for my local team and my local community. So I knew that right away. So it was cool to be able to play for him because, he got to see me as a player, but also as a person. And he was able to relay that information to Coach Beach. So that was a blessing for me. That was huge. So yeah, I've had a pretty easy recruiting process.
Yeah. Tell me about the timeline of that. So when did you kind of start that process of trying to get in communication with her? When was it actually kind of made official? Tell us a little about that part.
Yeah. So it was, I think the end of my sophomore year is when I started, looking into whether or not I wanted to play college. And I remember I was talking with my dad one day and I was like, Dad, I don't know if I'm good enough to play college. This is a D1 school. These girls are good. And I don't know if I want to do that or if I, can live up to that. And he was like, no, you can do it. It's all good. So at that point, that's when I was still playing for Coach Beach. so I started talking to my dad a little bit. We were talking to Coach Beach a little bit, and he recommended me to reach out to Erica and just see kind of where she was, what kind of players she needed, things like that. So I first sent an email to her, just saying, I'm so and so. I play for your dad, and I'm just very interested in playing for your team and playing local. And she emailed back. I think it was like, I don't even know, so fast. And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I am so excited you reached out to me. Like, I've been looking forward to this. Like, yeah, of course. Like, let's get you on a visit, come see the campus, things like that. So that was really cool. So I went on an unofficial visit, I think in October of my junior year.
Okay.
So, I was able to see the campus, see kind of what UNM softball was all about. And she seemed really interested at the time. So I was pretty excited about that. And then at the end of my junior year is when I reached out again and I was like, hey, I'm still interested. I still would like to commit to you if you still want me. And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So the end of my junior year is when I officially committed to UNM, and from there on, I've been here since. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I'm going to stop and say for a second that you definitely were good enough. You've always displayed hard work, persistence. You've always continued to just want to grow, want to develop. You're super coachable. And I loved, you have a passion, to just grow and perform at an elite level. So you were good enough, because I noticed that from your freshman year. Even honestly, she didn't give you guys this stat, but her little league team also won a World Series. So there was back in the day, way back in the day. So she's been living this life for a while.
That's right.
So yeah, I remember when I took over at La Cueva and the team, they were all in middle school, and we went to the middle school and watched them in the cafeteria, watched them play on the little screen, and I'm like, man, okay, I'm excited about them coming into our program. So
these new girls coming in.
yeah, exactly. So I know Coach Beach felt the same exact way, and you talked about a couple of things in that statement, and one was number one. Living up to the expectations of what you felt like a Division I player should live up to. So I want to touch on that a little bit, but I also wanted to speak on the fact that even though you knew the coach was super interested, you had the connection, you had to make the initial communication with her, number one. And number two, you had to follow up, right? So, you went on the visit and everything, and you hadn't got the actual offer yet, and you still had to reach back out and say, I'm still super interested. Hopefully you are. And then the way that you said it, basically she was like, yes, absolutely. Let's get it done. So I want everybody to know that coaches are super interested, and just because you don't hear right away or on your visit or whatever, doesn't mean that they're done with you. It just means that you probably need to be a little more persistent. I always say that recruiting is like dating a little bit, right? So you have to show interest, they have to show interest, and you got to kind of court each other, right? You got to be okay, well, let me call you today, then you call me tomorrow, so it's really a process like that. So that's awesome. So back to the living up to whatever you felt like the D1 expectation was. Tell us a little bit about that thought process, and what did you think it was like? Did it live up to that? Give us a little bit about that.
For sure. So first, when you're a sophomore in high school, you're just what you think is a little scrub, so you go and you watch these college games and you're like, oh my gosh, these girls are so big. They're so strong and they hit the ball so hard. And you're like, how am I ever going to do that? So, when you're young, you don't know anything, you don't know, the process or anything. So you're just nervous and you're like, I don't think I can do that. But so I don't know. I was nervous for my high school career to go into college. And then once you go into college, you understand the process a little bit more. And you understand that, these girls are big and strong, but they started just like you. So they started as, just these little skinny girls that can maybe hit it over the fence, maybe not, who knows, but with the dedication of work that you have in college, that's how you become these big, strong women that can hit the ball 500 feet. So, and it comes with a lot of different aspects. So it comes with, on the field, but also off the field in the weight room, and strength and conditioning, and all the sprints that you do and all of the running that you do. Everything comes into play. And you don't understand that when you're in high school, because to be honest, I mean, you don't do that in high school. You don't have the resources, you don't have the time, you don't have the safety to do it. So, I mean, there are so many different factors that come into play when you get in college that not a lot of girls really understand until they're actually there. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, living up to that expectation was pretty cool. And it was enlightening for me just to see that 100% anybody can be these big, strong girls. You just have to put in the work, and college gives you those resources to give you that kind of work ethic. So yeah, so it was pretty cool in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, along this journey, I'm switching questions, by the way, but along this journey, there's definitely probably been some moments where it's been a struggle. It's been tough. And so curious to know, like, what, pushed you to continue to get through some of those challenges and those hard times? What maybe were some of the things that helped you do that?
For sure. So first, in terms of actual softball and like the physical sense of softball, our coach. So again, we have a new coach now. So I'm gonna talk about Dr. Paula Congleton as our head coach now. She has a big saying that she's like, I get it. Like, you guys are tired. You work hard every single day. Like, there are some days that you're going to come in and you're not going to feel 100%. You may feel 60, 70, 80%. And that's okay, as long as you're giving 100% of that 80%. So she's like, I get it. And like, for our team, communication is so key. So like, if you're not feeling too hot that day, like just you got to be honest, and you got to tell her, say, hey, I'm not 100% right now. But I'm definitely going to do these drills. I'm definitely going to partake. But like, if you see me dragging over there, like just let me be. Like, I got it. So I think it's definitely, in that sense, it helps you just kind of gauge your own body and to listen to your own body and know that you don't have to be 100% all the time. So I think physically that really helped us push through, the hardest days. Mentally, I mean, we all know softball is one of the hardest dang sports to play. You can have such an amazing day one day, and the next day you have no idea what you're looking for, what you're doing. You're like, why am I playing this sport? So mentally, I think it's really important to find different people in different settings of your life to help you stay motivated. So for me, I have my coach on the field, and my coach is my number one gal. I mean, I love my coach so much. She pushes me every day. We kind of have the same personality, so it's easy to talk to her. And then in an academic setting, I have an academic advisor, Chris Baca. I'm giving you a shout out right now. She is incredible. I can talk to her about literally anything, and she's just so wise, and she helps me, push through academically, but also just, in life. I mean, she's so smart. And then, in your personal life setting, you do have to find, free time and time just to stay away from softball and not think about it, and not think about, the hardships of that. So, I have my family, I have my boyfriend to talk to. I mean, I have so many people outside that I can talk about whatever the heck I want to talk about, and they can keep me sane in that aspect. So I do think that, like, for mental challenges, you need to find different people in different settings so that you can keep motivated throughout the sport.
That is such great advice, by the way. And definitely shout out to not coach, but Chris Baca. She is awesome. I actually worked under her for a little bit. And so she probably changed my whole perspective on just the resources that athletes need to be successful. I mean, and just how she would talk to players and be present and funny or cry with you or hug.
That one is sassy.
Sassy. That's awesome. And so I do want to touch on something you said earlier where you do have a new coach now and you got recruited by a different coach. And so I know that, when you're in the recruiting process, you don't really necessarily take into account that there may be a coaching change or something abrupt might happen where you maybe not be prepared for. You're kind of committing to not only a school, even though they say, pick a school that you will be at for 4 years, regardless of whatever else happens. Like, if you don't play a sport, like if this doesn't happen, you still want to be there. Right. And so that's true. But I mean, when you're in the recruiting process, like I said, it goes back to the dating thing. Like, it's kind of like you're dating this person and then all of a sudden they drop you, or you get something happens where, the relationship ends. And so how did you handle that coaching change? And any advice, like if there's any girls going into a college program to kind of think about on the front end to kind of prepare themselves if that was to happen to them on the back end?
Yeah, definitely. Me personally, I was super blessed just because the coaching change happened before I came into the program. So when I graduated high school is when that coaching change occurred. I remember I was in Italy when they announced Dr. Congleton as our new coach. And so I think it was like 10 p.m. Italy time. I don't know. It was like 2 p.m. here. And I remember I texted her right away, and because she like sent a mass text saying, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, like I'm your new coach," all that. So I texted her right away, and I said, "Hey, I am so-and-so. It's so nice to meet you. I'm happy you're the new coach. I look forward to meeting you in person, And then I told her my situation. Like right now I'm in Italy, so I won't really be there until, August and things like that. And I think that communication really helped me, try to meet her and for her to meet me and understand that, I'm not just going to like show up one day and just be like, "Hey, like you're the new coach," because technically like we weren't her girls at that point, so she kind of had to gauge who she wanted to keep, who she wanted to cut, things like that. And that can be hard. So if you're, in that situation where there's a new coach coming in, I think communication is going to be the biggest key in order for them to know that, you still care about playing that sport and just, to build a relationship with that person. So you need to just keep talking to new coaches and just let them know what you're about and that you're still committed to play there.
That's awesome. So kind of keeping like an open mind too, like not thinking that, okay, like this is like the end of whatever. Like it's just, honestly, it's what you make it, right? It's kind of your perspective in life. So I love that. That's awesome. And so, I'm going to switch gears a little bit to academics just for a second. And so, you told me that you're double majoring at the University of New Mexico. And I know that for some of our athletes, they're still trying to figure out in high school, like what they want to do. So, tell us a little bit about like how you came up with the idea, like I want to do these two, biology and psychology, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what kind of like struck your chord? Like, I want to do this, or did you kind of already know, or did you have to like take some classes first? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I have always been a science nerd. Pre-med has been my go-to since I came out of the womb. So I knew definitely that I wanted to do something in medicine. And I wanted, to prepare for that in the future. So biology so technically when I went into college, I started off as a medical laboratory science major.
Oh, okay.
Just because I was looking and I was like, well, biology, I was thinking about biology and I was like, oh, that's so normal. Like all girls and all people that go into med school, they're bio majors. Yeah. So I was like, whatever. So I started off as a medical laboratory science because, I wanted to be the cool girl. And then I realized I was like, well, if I do that it's cool and you can do that. But there are certain classes that you still have to take in order to apply to medical school. So I was like, you know what? I was like, it's fine. I'm just going to do a bio major. So I became the cliche girl at that point. But there's a reason why everybody's a bio major is because it helps you out so much. So yeah, so I did that. And then it was actually this past winter when I decided to double major because I had a plan of minoring in chemistry and psychology. And then when COVID hit, we were granted an extra year of eligibility and I was supposed to graduate this past May, but I'm going to take that extra year. So I needed to find something to do for a whole year. So, I talked to Chris Baca. I talked to her and I talked to, my on-campus advisor and just to see, if I should start, doing a graduate program or like a little 1-year certificate kind of thing. And they both recommended to just double major. So my psychology minor is going to turn into a psychology major pretty much. So, that was a pretty easy transition. For me, I'm very blessed to know I guess just know right away of what I wanted to do. I have teammates that still don't know what they want to do and they're about to enter their junior year and that's okay too. for girls who don't really understand how college classes work right now, usually your freshman year is when you take, your base classes that almost everybody has to take. Yeah. So you have a year to kind of, explore what you want to do, what you like. So I think that makes it easier for girls just to, figure out like what is manageable for me and what do I find interest in. And the other thing, even if you major in something, whatever you major in, your career may not have anything to do with your major, but it doesn't matter because, in real life, people usually, I'm not going to say usually, but people can take your major and be like, okay, you got a bachelor's degree, but you're going to go do something completely different. And that's okay too. So, for girls, I'm just going to say, find something you're interested in and, roll with that and just enjoy the classes you're taking for sure.
I love it. I love it. And so interesting. We've heard, different people say different things about, Division I and like certain majors you have to take because, classes get in the way or labs get in the way. And so some coaches are really particular about, taking those biology classes because you got to have a lab and lab is usually right during practice. And so, did you run into any of that issue? And, did you just was coach just super cool understanding about it, or have you experienced any like pushback on those types of things or what?
100%. Yeah. So we have practice in the morning. Oh, perfect. And so that's when most classes are. And so it gets hard. Our coach, I'm so blessed to have the coach I have right now because she has a PhD. So she gets it. She's like, academics come first 100% of the time. And in softball right now, it's growing for sure. Our professional sports are growing. But right now, we have to find careers outside of softball. And she understands that too. And so she 100% is going to let you, take the classes you need to take. Even if it's during practice, we'll make it up. It's fine. So she's been awesome about that. And I think that was also a huge factor when I was talking to her because, she knew, I wanted to go into medicine and I wanted to do that. And that's a serious commitment. So she was like, no, we're definitely going to work around your schedule. You're going to be, successful in the classroom and you're going to be successful on the field. Like we're going to do both. You don't have to pick just one. So I think that's another reason why I'm so grateful that I chose UNM because there are some colleges that, kind of limit you to what you're able to do. And I wasn't about that. I wanted to do whatever the heck I wanted to do, So I think that's also a huge thing that girls need to look at when they're looking in colleges and what kind of academic resources and options do they have.
I love it. And I'm sorry, this is not even a question that I have on the paper, but I just believe that you have strength. Like, I feel like you have such a grasp, right, on your direction, what you want. And like, I feel like you're not letting anyone stop you from getting to that direction and what you want. And so I'm just curious, like, where does that strength for you come from?
I have no idea. That's a good question. I don't know. I think part of it is just my personality and that I'm a pretty stubborn person when it comes to what I want. But for women in general, I think that we just, we all need to have that like little bit of fire and a little bit of like, I'm going to take what I want and I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. Because I think that's how we're going to succeed in any field we go in. You just have to have some kind of fire and some kind of passion of what you want to do. Yeah. So if you haven't found that passion, that's totally cool. And you just have to keep looking and keep exploring. For me, it started off when I was little and I was trying to dissect whatever the heck was around me. And it was just weird. But you just have to find whatever you're passionate about. And then it makes it so much easier to follow that path.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I won't keep you too much longer, but I do have a couple more questions. Sure. And so your other major, psychology, I'm really, really, really big on mindset. And so we do a lot of mindset training with our athletes. And, there's kind of this whole, I would say, new era of like athletics. You're having to build not only the physical, but the mental. Right. And so psychology for you, like why psychology and like, what is it bringing to you? Would you have a a peak interest from something else that maybe said like, oh, psychology is a good second major for me, or why psychology basically?
Yeah. So, my first thought was when you go into the medical field, you're going to meet a bunch of different people with a bunch of different, diseases, illnesses, things like that. So psychology was huge for me just to be able to learn a little bit more about certain mental illnesses people have, certain personality types people can have and how you can work with those. So, as a career standpoint, that's kind of why I chose psychology, but for sure it translates into softball and things like that, because you learn a little bit more about like the learning and memory process. So you learn, how you're able to, what they call conditioning yourself, and how you're able to condition yourself into creating good habits. And that 100% has translated into softball. Just learning that you have to do the exact same thing and the right same thing every single day, even if it's boring, in order to really master something and to let your body like have muscle memory about it. And even like in the mental aspect, like, you just learn a little bit more about how to understand your own like mentality, in the sense of like, for me, I've learned to chill out. like, making your mind go a million miles an hour about 100 different things, it just isn't going to help you. And so I think being a psychology major has also helped me, just kind of keep it as simple as I possibly can. And just know that I'm able to give myself grace whenever, I fail and things like that. So, I mean, for sure, psychology has helped me in athletics too.
Oh my gosh. You said like so many things that are like little buzzwords, right? Like routine, habits, like consistency, doing the same thing every day, even if it's boring, because it's going to help you build mastery, right? You talked about chilling out, like not letting the fear of failure stop you from kind of keeping going, right? It's quieting your mind and the voices in your mind, like so many mindset things there. Like, so I think that's awesome. And so, I was going to ask, basically, one of my questions is going to be about being on a big stage and like having to perform constantly, and like how that pressure can kind of affect you and kind of what kind of things you work through. But I think you pretty much answered it for the most part, right? Like,
yeah, I think so. I mean, and another important thing is that, learning how to like with performance expectations and learning how to deal with it. I think it's a work in progress for everybody. So like I don't think anybody has ever perfected that, because there are certain situations in certain environments that you're going to be put into that may be different for you, and you're a little bit caught off guard, or like you're not really sure how to deal with it. I mean, everybody is still working on that, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah. Perfection doesn't exist.
Right.
And we can strive for it, which is a great thing to do. But again, as long as we're doing it in a healthy manner. And so my last section here is just basically talking about any advice we can give to like parents or girls or coaches to help them along the journey. And so one of my questions is just really about defining success outside of performance, or, defining success outside of the performance for both the player and the parent. So any advice for like how our players or our parents can find or define success differently than just like, I hit a home run today? Yeah,
for sure. You definitely can't define success by your stats. I always think about in softball and the people that you meet in softball, they're not going to remember you for hitting 400 with 12 homers. Like that's not what they're going to remember you by. They're going to remember you by how you treated them and what kind of person you were, as a teammate and outside of softball. So I think we can definitely define success as how you came into the sport and how you came out. So did you learn patience? Did you learn, how to push somebody? Did you learn how to be coached, and how to be pushed by your own teammates? I think anything that can translate into the real world is, a measurable aspect of success in our sport. And for parents, it's hard. And I get it, because I have a dad who's so crazy about softball. Because they just want to see their kids succeed in any aspect they're in. For parents, I think success is the same thing. So does your kid look good on the field? Like, does he look like a teammate? Is she, being a good person? Is she yelling at her teammates? That's, sometimes not good. But you just, as a parent, I think you just have to push your kid to be a good person. And I think being a good person will make you successful on the softball field because, you'll work hard, you'll listen, you'll obey people. I mean, that's, being a good person is going to make you successful for sure.
I love it. And then 2 more questions.
Sure.
If you are transitioning from high school to college, any advice for like how to prepare as best as you can for like that first year of college, like the differences, what can I do to prepare, anything to like that you just were not prepared for that, like, hey, get prepared for this, anything?
Yeah. Well, first, I think that maybe you should talk to some teammates that are there and just be like, hey, like, is there anything I need to be ready for? Because I remember when I was going into my freshman year, we had a crazy strength and conditioning coach. She was amazing. Carla Garrett, an Olympic weightlifter. I mean, she was the girl. Okay. So I asked my teammates, I was like, is there anything I need to prepare for her? And, they were like, yeah, like make sure you're running a lot so that you don't die the first day. So I was like, okay, fine. But, I mean, every team is going to have, different things that they need to prepare for. So definitely talk to your teammates. As far as like, just going in, maybe not really knowing anything, I think every athlete needs to go in with an open mind and understand that there are some programs that have like a little bit of a hierarchy and you may not be treated that well. And that's just the truth. You're a freshman, you don't know what's going on. So I think just keeping a positive attitude when you're a freshman and just, listening to your upperclassmen, even if, you may not think it's super right, you just need to learn the ropes of things before you really, get into the program. So I think just having an open mind can be a huge factor for success for freshmen coming in.
Yeah. Anything academically that you want to speak on?
Yeah, I mean, academically, I was scared when I was a freshman. Academically, just know that every professor is going to give you the syllabus for the entire year. So every assignment you need to turn in, it's going to be on that syllabus. For me, the first day I was in college, I thought that was, just for that day or that week. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am never going to succeed. I was like, this is not going to work. So just kind of chill out a little bit. Just know that you are going to have to practice time management. And if you can't do that, definitely talk to your academic advisors. They are a huge resource for freshmen. Take advantage of study hall and just make sure that you have everything in line for academics and athletics before you start, going into personal free time and things like that.
Great advice. And so my biggest thing for every female athlete is that they eventually not just think about athletics, but own their power in the world. Like I want her to own her power in the world. So my shirt says basically own her power.
Oh, nice.
So really big on that. My business is called Lead Hership Athletics. It's about her leading her journey, right?
Yeah.
It's not about anyone else or anything else. It's about her defining what that looks like and living up to that expectation for herself. So I always ask the final question with every interview that I do. What is one trait that you believe every female athlete should have to own her power in the world?
I kind of touched on it earlier, and I think one trait is just to have passion. Whatever you do, I don't care if you're playing softball. I don't care, whatever you're doing, you have to have passion for it. And that's how you're going to, succeed and enjoy life. And just have that motivation to work hard every single day for what you're doing. And that's going to give you so much confidence down the road. And, in life, you just have to have, passion for what you want to do.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, that's wrapping up our special interview today. So excited. Thank you so much. And I will probably tag you when I post this or post a couple snippets of the things that you're talking about, because so many great things. So I hope that they get to hear and listen and take your advice, because I think you have some good stuff there. So
thank you.
Well, thank you.